they happen to be my views, and well, for the next hour, hopefully, they're going to be the views of our good friend Bob Chapman. Hi, Bob. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Well, they certainly beat gold and silver down over this last couple of days, didn't they?
Well, yes, they did, and that's okay. I thought we'd go to 12.35 and then 13.25. I'll get it straight. 13.25, and then correct back to 1200. But that didn't happen. And so it went down about $100 intraday. It went down, closed at 11.64 in the spot market, and it was about $15 below that. So we'll say 11.48, and it may be the bottom. It may float down a little bit more, but that's it. And all of the technicians are jumping out and down and saying, oh, we're going to have a correction, it's going to be terrible, and all this stuff. And they've been wrong at every single turn, the poor souls. Well, and anyway, what's that?
No, go right ahead.
And so we ended up 560 in the day, off 560 in the day. Silver was down 16 cents after being down about 40. And the outside market was a little weaker in both metals. So we may have a day or two of stabilization, give or take on gold, $10 one way or the other, and on silver, 25 cents one way or the other, and then I think it'll resume its upward march. One of the things I've been harping on is that the United States government no longer has the ability to hold gold down for any period of time. They can hold it down for 2 or 3 days, and that's it. And the same thing with the dollar. The dollar yesterday was up almost 1 point on the USDX. Today it was off 0.17. They can't hold a game because there's lots of people out there who want to get rid of dollars, and every time it rallies, they sell into it. And they know that because they left the dollar to benign neglect because they want it to go down, and they want to replace it at some place down the line. So gold and silver are still in a bull market. They're both going considerably higher. The shares acted enormously well today. Some of them were up. And so the shares, which is a more sophisticated market, are telling you that we're close to a turn here, or bottoming again on a correction, which is healthy. And it's a good opportunity for people who came in a few days ago and wanted to buy and didn't, and so they can buy a little cheaper, and that's okay. And so we'll be off and running again soon. I think we'll get a shot at 13.25 before the end of the year, maybe. And then by the beginning of April, I think we get a shot at 15.50 to 16.50.
All right,
and then by the end of the year, 2,500 to 3,000.
Well, I think that these are really going to be very difficult times for a lot of people. I think that certainly everything points to the fact that they intend to destroy the value of the American dollar. And when, of course, later, we want to talk to Bob about what that will mean. You see, it doesn't make sense. Why would anybody want to destroy the value of the American dollar? And the answer to that is really very simple. They hate America. And, of course, they want to plunge us and our people into abject poverty. And if you take that as a given, then so much of what's going on makes sense. Well, this is Dr. Stan, and I certainly asked Bob what would happen to the average American if they were to certainly lose the value of the dollar. And Bob said he didn't think that would happen unilaterally. He thought all the nations of the world would devalue their currencies, and some would lose more than others. That probably the value of the dollar would go to about a third of what it is, but then everything would be revalued, and of course we would get one new dollar for every 3 old dollar, but then they would devalue our debts as well, and the salaries would fall, and the price of goods would fall. Do you think that this is imminent? When do you actually think this revaluation of the dollar will come?
I wrote a couple of issues back in the International Forecaster. It was the first 2 pages. I think it was last Wednesday, maybe the Saturday before. And the information I have came from a banker who attends Federal Reserve meetings. And the banker said that the Fed believes that a dollar devaluation will take place before the end of next year, and didn't say what the numbers would be. The numbers you quoted were my numbers. That's my guesstimate after looking into it. And I don't know what government's going to do in regard to the money that's been loaned out, the loans, the mortgages, etc. The logic tells you what I just said, but there's no logic in Washington. If they want to bust everybody financially, they can do it by not adjusting it.
Well, but
and then people would.
Bob, there's no way the government can ever pay back its debts, certainly as far as Medicare, Social Security, federal pensions, all of these things, you're talking 60, 70, $1 trillion. There's no way they can ever pay those off. There's got to be some way they can write them down by inflation so they can pay the money back, but the money will be worthless. So how are they going to go about doing that? I mean, we are the greatest debtor nation in the world, and there's no way feasible ever to pay off the government's debts.
You're right. And that's why they're going to have a devaluation and multilateral default. Domestically, how they do it remains to be seen. They could, bust everybody. And they might just do that because you and I both know that this is designed to put Americans and Europeans on their knees financially and economically, and they might do that. Of course, if they do that, they'll have a revolution on their hands. And so we don't know how it's going to turn out. I was also told that the Fed is going to try to withdraw $1.3 trillion from the economy. They were going to bring in about $500 billion in TARP funds, but the followers of Mr. Obama, they demand that people be given help who are unemployed in different ways, and they want that $700 billion in total that's coming back from the banks. They want that for welfare programs and retraining programs and things like that. And so Obama is bending to political pressure, and rightly so, because the public has got very little. The banks, the brokerage firms, and the insurance companies get all the money. And they're making billions off of it, and they're paying billions of dollars in bonuses. And so the public's mad about it. That's why 75% of them back H.R. 1207 and S604, which are the bills to audit and investigate the Federal Reserve. And so I don't think that the Fed is going to be able to withdraw $1.3 trillion, or is it 1.5, one or the other, from the economy. They'll have to do it through the repo market. And if they do that, then they're going to have to go into auction and buy more treasuries anyway. So there's really no way out for this. So we're going to have hyperinflation, and at the end of next year, when it's really getting warmed up, they'll pull their devaluation along with other countries, and they'll proceed to make the economy worse. Trade will slow down, and unemployment will continue to rise. The unemployment figures, I have a lot in that in the coming issue, which is coming out Wednesday, the real facts behind the numbers. And the unemployment number, the real number, dropped from 22.2% to 21.9% by their figures. But when you see what they've done to Mickey Mouse the figures, even in U6, because the public is catching on to U6 now, they know that U3, which is that 10%, is really only a small part of the whole unemployment picture. And so unemployment with hyperinflation and not substantial job creation, because they're not solving the problem, that will continue to make unemployment move up probably to around 25% next year. The question is, will there be another stimulus package? $400 billion from TARP funds may be joined by $400 billion given again by the legislature. And if that happens, it'll carry them another year. But in the meantime, they're going to have a devaluation, and they're going to have inflation, bad inflation. Inflation right now is 7.125%. Government calls it at 1.2%. You see how close they are, but that's normal.